Hello, Bethel Community Church. This is Pastor Nathan with the Monday Devotion. Today we're going to be in the book of Ruth. We finished our Philippians series, and we're doing topicals or passages just as a fill-in before we start another series through a book or a specific topic. So expect the same thing from Rich and Tad, and let's jump in. So the book of Ruth is one of my favorite books in the Bible, and I have a lot of favorite books of the Bible, but it's particularly poignant to me because it happens during the time of the Judges. If you've studied the Bible or read through the Bible, the whole thing, you'll notice that the book of Judges is particularly horrible. How can I say that about Scripture? It's particularly horrible because it records a period of time where people are particularly horrible. Things are really, really, really bad in Israel during the time of the Judges. There's no king in Israel at this point. Everyone's doing what seems right in their own eyes. They mix Baal and Asherah worship, pagan worship, with the worship of Yahweh. What should be right is considered bad and mistreated. Those who are weak, those who are vulnerable or oppressed, it's just a really horrible. You read through the book of the Judges, and by the end you're just like, man, even some of the judges themselves, the priests, the people who should be the ones calling everyone to follow God and listen to God and follow His word, they're horrible people. They're deeply flawed people. People like Samson and the Levite, like they're messed up. And so in the middle of that scenario, in the middle of that culture and time period, you have the book of Ruth. And you have Boaz and Ruth who come in and they step in and they have a faith that follows after God, and they live it out. They live out the loyal love of God. They do things right in a time that's really horrible and really bad. And as there's a lot of horrible and there's a lot of bad going on in the world, there's a lot of depressing things and really, really rough things. And whether you think it's as bad as the book of Judges or worse or better, whatever, I think in every circumstance, Boaz and Ruth are a reminder for us to look at how to live in our culture, in our place, and embrace God's loyal love and live that out in context with other people. So we're going to look in chapter 1 and read a pretty decent sized section and just look at Ruth's response to the situation she's put in. Now we're going to start in verse 8. Up to that point, you have the story of there's a famine, starvation. So Naomi and her husband travel out to the land of Moab, outside of Israel, where there's food. And they live there for a while, and they have 2 sons who marry 2 daughters in Moab. And tragedy befalls, and Naomi's husband dies, and her sons die. And she's kind of left destitute in a foreign land. And she makes the decision to turn and go back to Israel. And she tells her daughter-in-laws to stay and remarry in their own land because she doesn't have anything to offer them. They're sojourners, they're immigrants, whether they're in Israel or out of Israel. They're in just a horribly tight spot. So let's jump in verse 8. But Naomi said to her 2 daughter-in-laws, "Go, return each of you to her mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you, as you have dealt with me, with the dead and with me. The Lord grant that you may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband." Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voices and wept. And they said to her, "No, we will return with you to your people." But Naomi said, "Turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Have I yet sons in my womb that they may become your husbands? Turn back, my daughters. Go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, even if I should have a husband this night and should bear sons, would you therefore wait till they were grown? Would you therefore refrain from marrying? No, my daughters, for it is exceedingly bitter for me for your sake that the hand of the Lord has gone out against me. Then they lifted up their voices and wept again. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. She said, "See, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after your sister-in-law." But Ruth said, "Do not urge me to leave you or to return from following you. Where you go, I will go, and where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts me from you." When Naomi saw that she was determined to go with her, she said no more. Now Naomi's in a place of bitterness. She's depressed. She's despairing. She looks at what's happening in her life and she points to God. Why has God done this to us, to me, and to Orpah and Naomi, to Orpah and Ruth? And Ruth's response is, "I'm going to stick with you. I'm going to show you love. I'm going to follow the Lord." And we see that through the rest of the book. She takes care of Naomi. She's going into a foreign land, different native tongue, different life situation, doesn't know anyone, doesn't have anyone physically to protect her. It's a lawless anarchy time in Israel, and your male relatives were your safety and security, and neither of them have either. And so she's going into a dangerous place potentially, Israel when it's at its worst. And she says, "No, I'm going to loyally love you, Naomi. I'm going to follow you." And she does that. She follows through with it. And as a proper, wonderful love story, she meets someone who does the same thing. Boaz, one of the few male characters in the Bible who shows what it means to be a good father and a good husband, and providing and showing loyal love. And so I just want to encourage everyone, as there's a lot of hurt, there's a lot of tensions, there's a lot of pain, there's a lot going on in our country, and a lot of things we need to address and talk about and work through with each other. And ultimately, we need to point people to Jesus. And no matter what you do, no matter how you address things, no matter what you're going through, I encourage you, be like Naomi, be like Ruth and Boaz. Show loyal love. Show kindness in a time where it's hard, in a time where things are chaotic. Be those who follow God and show love. Have a wonderful week. I love you all, and God bless.